Hello, this is our Assure presentation about teaching copyright for Info 5720. We are Group 3. This presentation explains how we use the Assure method to create a lesson on copyright. Our application of the Assure method is based upon the text titled Instructional Technology and Media for Learning by Smaldino, Lothar, and Mims. For the first part of Assure, we analyzed our learners. According to Smaldino et al., the key areas to consider during learner analysis include the general characteristics of learners, specific entry competencies, and their learning differences and needs. For this lesson, the students are in 8th grade, about ages 12 to 13. They do frequently use the internet and are comfortable with the use of computers and tablets, and they also have a basic understanding of copyright and the related vocabulary. This isn't the first time they've heard of these things. The majority of students prefer hands-on learning experiences, so we thought about how our lesson could accommodate a preference for body kinesthetic activities. Regarding differentiation, students will work together in small groups to be able to bounce ideas off of each other and to have a safety net should they feel uncomfortable with the activities so that they can be more successful. We looked at several sets of standards to determine the skills focus for the lesson, including the Texas School Library Program Standards by the Texas State Library and Archive Commissions, the American Association of School Librarians, and the International Society for Technology and Education. Although the wording may vary, all of these standards address the common skills of using information in an ethical and legal manner. The specific strands are listed at the bottom of the slide. The key here is ethical and legal use of information, relating specifically to fair use, intellectual freedom, intellectual property, and copyright. Based on these standards, we used the ABCD format to create our lesson objectives. We included audience, behavior, conditions, and degree. We also created a rubric that aligns with these objectives. Our objectives, of course, are that we would like our 8th grade students by the end of the lesson to be able to explain the concepts of copyright, intellectual property, public domain, and fair use for their activity and to show mastery. We want students to take examples that we give them of copyright scenarios and determine whether or not it falls under appropriate fair use or not, and to be able to support their understanding and their reasonings. And finally, we would like them to demonstrate how to select and properly cite images from the public domain and Creative Commons. In terms of strategies, we created a PowerPoint presentation to deliver the content that students need to know to understand and meet the lesson objectives. We created a PowerPoint presentation that can be delivered using a digital projector or interactive whiteboard. We used Piktochart to create a handout with helpful visuals to reinforce concepts and a combination of whole group instruction and small group collaborative activities. After reviewing many websites and professional articles, we selected our resources. Copyright.gov is the primary source for copyright and fair use information. We found that many secondary sources referenced Copyright.gov. After reading professional articles, we found Kathy Schrock and Renee Hobbs repeatedly cited for their contributions to media literacy. We also used the dictionary. For our resources, to preview the resources, we previewed the Creative Commons website so we could show students how to navigate the site, search for images, and understand permission levels. To prepare the resources, we created a student activity including instructions and copyright and fair use scenarios. To prepare the environment, we would make sure that space is arranged for both whole group discussion and small group work. Students will need space to work together in groups of 3 with access to the internet through a shared computer or tablet. They will also need tape to post the scenarios on the correct column of their butcher paper. In the student presentation, we prepare the learners in the first 5 slides by establishing the why behind the lesson. We include a relatable situation, including an image in a presentation for school, and rhetorical questions. How would you want others to use or share your work? Then we end the slideshow with a slide titled, Why Does It All Matter?, placing the lesson in greater context regarding legal and moral implications. Finally, we will provide the learning experience with a presentation and collaborative practice. The next step in the Assure process is to require learner participation. To practice, students build their information literacy skills by using Creative Commons to select and cite an image for a team mascot. Students collaborate in small groups to determine whether each scenario is an example of copyright infringement or fair use. Finally, students receive feedback based on whether they label each scenario correctly and through small group discussion. To evaluate student learning, we created a rubric that is aligned with the 3 objectives. During our discussion session, we also would debrief with students to find out how confident they feel in transferring their new understanding of copyright into their projects. We would collaborate with Mrs. Stewart to monitor the creation of the final projects to evaluate how effectively students apply skills from the copyright lesson. To evaluate our students, we would put them into categories of proficient, emerging, or beginning based on their skills and their mastery throughout our lesson. Finally, here are our references. We used a variety of different things, including the AASL standards, the Consortium for Media Literacy, ISTE standards, the dictionary, Kathy Schrock's information, the textbook from Smaldino et al., and the TSLAC standards as well, the Texas Library Standards.